Welcome, Crime Besties, to episode 38 of Two Crime Besties. We're talking about Belle Gibson today.
Yay. I'm excited for this one, actually. I've got all my paperwork. I'm good.
Love it. Yeah, we were just sorting some stuff out right before we hit record, but it's all good. It's all good. We got everything in order. We're fine. We're good.
We've had some pretty heavy weeks too, whereas this one is somewhat lighter.
It is. Yeah. When I was telling Peter about this episode, he was like, but where's the crime? And I'm like, well, there's so much crime, but not a lot that she was necessarily convicted for. But yeah, look, it still ties into our theme.
Absolutely.
But it is definitely lighter than what we've covered in the last sort of 3 or 4 episodes, I guess.
Yes.
I just thought we might even take this opportunity just really quickly to maybe very briefly introduce ourselves again, because we've got a lot of new listeners at the minute.
This is true.
And I just thought if people are finding us sort of based on like searches on TikTok and only listening to certain episodes, maybe we could give a brief, quick intro to ourselves. Yeah.
Cool.
I've put you on the spot.
Did you notice how much of panic I did?
I'll start.
Okay, cool.
My name's Emma and I love true crime. Meg and I decided to do this podcast years ago, and we really only started it actually almost coming up for 12 months ago, where we really started to work hard on it and really get things going with it.
And then like about 6 months later, we actually committed to sending it out to the world.
Well, we were bloody panicked about it, to be fair.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, if you go back and listen to our earlier episodes, production value was slightly less good than what it is now.
I know that terrifies me that people start with those first episodes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the first, was it 10? 8, 10, something like that, until we got new equipment and really invested in what we're doing. So, you know, forgive us for those first episodes, but then you listen to the first episodes of any podcast and, you know, everyone gets better as they go along.
And I still stand by content. Fine.
Just content, great.
Audio quality. I mean, I reckon we've gotten better still in content, but it was a good start.
Yeah.
But it's the audio quality gets me.
Yeah.
And there's still that level of nervousness in when we speak too. I reckon there's.
Yeah. Do you get nervous before we record now?
Every time.
Do you? I don't really get nervous anymore.
I probably just it drifts off quicker.
Okay.
Yeah. Every time clicking that button, I'm like, do I know everything? My brain
but
literally
you
goes
do
to
know
freeze.
everything.
Yeah, but it's like, but I panic. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like that exam thing, isn't it? Where you're just like, oh, I know nothing. And then you get into the exam and you're like, oh, actually, I would always come out of exams and go, oh, I failed that. But then you'd get your mark and like, oh, okay, I did know a few things, so that's okay.
I think with us though, because we are completely non-scripted, you know, like, I mean, we might read a quote here and there sort of stuff, but it is, and you know, you listen to a lot of other podcasts and it's so polished because it's scripted. But I think that's the charm of us.
That's right. That's why people come back, I hope. Yeah. So, I've got 2 young boys, a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And I guess my hobby is podcasting. It is, you know, it's what Meg and I do on a Friday.
It's our Friday.
It's my best day of the week. Love it. And, it's been like a real game changer in terms of like, for me personally, in the cadence of my week. Like I feel like, you know, I'm busier because obviously we're researching for a podcast and that takes up so much time.
Yeah.
I think in the Q&A episode that we released over Christmas, I think you and I both sort of identified the fact that we probably spend at least 10 hours a week researching for each episode. Some episodes more, some episodes a little bit less. But but it really takes a huge time commitment. So it really has changed the way my weeks kind of run, but in a really positive way. I love doing it. It's never felt like a chore.
Yes.
Sometimes on a Thursday night when I'm like, oh, I haven't looked at this or I haven't researched this, I get a bit panicked, but still love it.
Oh, absolutely. I know, because it's actually changed it used to be like, oh, what's the newest thing on Netflix, whatever to watch? Whereas now I'm like so deep diving into one particular topic that I'm so behind on series and things like that other people are probably watching, you know. I mean, well, maths at the moment I'm staying up with, of course, because you have to. I know you don't watch that.
No, I haven't, because I know that is too much of a time commitment for me. I don't have the time for that, but I have gotten into the latest season of The White Lotus. Peter and I are watching it.
I haven't watched that.
But it only comes out 1 episode a week. So it's actually fine because it's an hour a week.
I might wait for the holidays. I mean, maybe I can binge a fair bit of it then.
Do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the last episode was a little light on, but I'm looking forward to like the storyline unfolding. Because there's some really great characters in it.
Well, there's the one particular person who's not in this season, obviously because she did. But
Indeed.
that I'm like, well, do I need to watch? But I will get into it. But it's like, it's one of those ones where I keep seeing it pop up that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to research this instead. But yeah, it's definitely in the back of mind. That's
Love
for sure.
it. It's so good.
Yes, I was catching up on my Beverly Hills Housewives this week. I think I'm up to date now with that. Like, so you just...
This reunion is going to be amazing. Now, just really quickly, I know we haven't gotten to your introduction yet, but just really quickly, is it just me or is Kathy Hilton hitting different this season?
She is so freaking hilarious.
I just love that woman. The lemons in everything. Like, she's wearing a lemon outfit. She's got lemons in her bouquets of flowers.
She's darning it up, actually.
I just bloody love her. She's so good. And I haven't watched the latest episode yet.
Haven't you? Oh, wait for it.
Oh, I can't wait. But I did see this thing on TikTok, so I think I have a vague idea of what she does. I'm like, oh, I cannot wait. I'm here for this.
I'm literally yelling at the screen the same as Kyle and all the others sitting on the sidelines where I'm like, oh my God, Kathy!
Is this where she's like standing in the middle of a catwalk?
She literally walks, so she just walks herself. I think the woman's so freaking wealthy that the world evolves around her.
Yeah.
And it literally looks like that in this episode because she just they're at a fashion show. She just walks into the back lot of it and grabs Sutton and Sutton, I think you need a narrator. It's just next level. And then she walks out the front, but she's injured herself and she's limping. Gold.
She's
gold.
So good.
Yeah.
She is so good.
Yeah. She's next level. I think she's lost the plot a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, did she ever have the plot?
Well, I've always believed, Paris Hilton being her daughter, I've always believed that Paris Hilton is really super intelligent.
Agreed.
And leans into the silliness. And I always thought, her mum will be the same. Just don't know that is the case.
No, I think you're right. She just goes around in her own little world and her own little, everything revolves around her.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so funny. She's really giving me life. I just love her.
I love it.
And then the other thing, I sent you a snapshot, a screenshot the other day of Jen Shah from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and Elizabeth Holmes working out together in prison.
That's the best.
Oh, it's the best.
Oh, I want to be a fly on the wall and hear those conversations. Like, what on earth would those two have to talk about other than scamming people?
Oh, it's the best. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how they found each
just
other.
Say that, oh, you did it that way? Oh, well, I did this. What?
Yeah, love it.
No, I just can't. That's so good. I want to be a fly on the wall for that, for sure.
Yeah. All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. So, Meg, I'm mum of two boys. I have a 10-year-old and nearly 8-year-old this weekend.
Yes.
Oh my God. Most gorgeous, squishy kids ever. I love them. And what else? They're mad on their sports. So I just feel like I'm being dragged around and being a taxi driver 24/7. I work in a field of education, out of the classroom, and I love that. But I love this more, maybe.
Oh my God, if this could be our job. Oh my God, I would love it.
Actually, I didn't tell you this the other day. We were driving to school and Mason was really upset. My eldest, he was really upset that I don't let them listen to the podcast because of the content.
For reasons.
Yeah. And so we might listen to an intro here and there or something like that. But no, they don't listen to the actual episodes. And he was really annoyed at me for not letting him listen. And he says to me, how old do I have to be able to listen to your podcast? I go, look, 16, and he goes, oh, what? By the time I'm 16, I'll have thousands of episodes to catch up on.
Oh, bless him.
And I was like,
yes, you will, mate. Yeah. Yes, you will.
That faith in me that we're going to get to he's going to be 6 years down the track. We're still going to be doing
Can you imagine?
This.
Hey,
if we are, we better be making a
lot of money.
Truckload of money.
So just one thing actually while you mentioned that.
Yeah.
We had a really lovely listener contact us this week and she said, can you please put together a Patreon because she's like, you should be paid for what you do.
There's a few comments we've had like that similar recently.
But I would love to know if people can DM us or something. Can you let us know what you would want from a Patreon?
Yes.
Because we've got a couple of different ideas, but we're not really sure how to go about it and what you would want
Yeah,
to
we want to make
pay
sure we're
for.
offering something that you would want to do.
That's valuable, but also something that we can actually add in because,
Time-wise.
that would, we are really pressed for time, but it is something that we're definitely willing to explore. So let us know what you feel would be good to add in for a Patreon.
Yeah,
and
because
we'll definitely we're looking into it.
Yeah. We want to keep doing this because we love it, and it is the best. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I've got a few shout outs for today.
Yes, bring it.
So we've got Emma, Annette James and Kayla Smith, a couple of really lovely comments. And then we've got Tilly and Nicole from TikTok who've been liking all our TikToks, commenting, saving, doing all the things that we need them to do to get our TikToks out there. So thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, TikTok count continues to do well. I find that it is driving a lot of our audience. So jump on.
And if you found us on TikTok, let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
And I also just jotted down a little thing as well. It's just a reminder for everyone that the way that we decide to make our podcast and produce our podcast and what we release, every week, we're definitely open to feedback and we love getting feedback from people, but we can't please everyone.
Absolutely.
So we've had some comments and people are being lovely. I'm not saying their criticism isn't constructive, but we've got a person who said to us this week, oh, I don't like the banter, get rid of it, just start the cases as you go. And then we have other people, a lot of other people who are like, oh, we love the banter before you sort of get into the seriousness of the case. So while we appreciate everyone's feedback and we're more than welcoming of it, please let us know what you think and what you like. And, if tips in a certain direction, we will absolutely be guided by that.
Yeah.
But we can't please everyone. So we always put in our show notes when the case actually starts. So if you want to skip this bit where we're chatting at the start of the episode, go right ahead.
Yeah. You can look for the timestamp at the bottom of the notes. So absolutely, it's always there. Just jump ahead. No offense taken whatsoever from us.
We get it.
No.
Sometimes when I'm listening to our episodes back, I'm like, shut the fuck up and get on with the episode.
I'm sure there's people, screaming at us all the time. But
well, Peter reckons because he listens on the train on the way to work on a Tuesday morning, and he's like, oh, your banter went 2 stations longer than normal today. I'm like, we had a lot to talk about.
I'm surprised he listens. He listens enough to us here, I'm guessing. Jump ahead.
Oh, no, we need him for the stats.
Well, we still get your stats even if you jump ahead.
That's right.
It still counts.
Absolutely.
We're not, as I say, not offended at all.
No,
so jump
not
ahead.
even a little bit.
Tell us to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. All right, shall we get into today's episode?
Let's do it. Belle Gibson.
Okay.
Oh, who's been watching Apple Cider Vinegar?
I think everyone.
Everyone?
Like around the world, I think everyone's been watching Apple Cider Vinegar.
However, we'll get into it because it's not factual.
No. So Annabelle Natalie Gibson was born. Now, again, okay, I'm just going to preface actually this episode by saying Belle lied about everything. Everything, even her date of birth.
Yeah.
And so what we talk about, a lot of this is what Belle has reported. I mean, we know her date of birth is the 8th of October 1991. She then claimed it was 1989 and then 1990. She's just
all over the show.
I mean, I guess what she's about. She was a pathological liar, and what you cannot take on face value anything she says, and even when you try and investigate certain claims she's made, you don't even get a straight answer.
No.
So what we're going to talk about today is a lot of what she's told us, and then obviously what journalists and other professionals and friends have been able to actually find out for sure.
Yeah.
So she was born on the 8th of October in 1991 in Launceston, Tasmania. And although she grew up in Queensland, so she and her family moved. Now, her dad. So Belle's dad, this already gets me because in some reports I see that he's known as like a sperm donor and that's it.
Yeah.
And then in other reports they moved to Queensland and he left the family when Belle was 7. So what's right? I actually don't know.
We don't know. I mean, this is the thing. I read a couple of different things of similar sort of vein and was like, well, you can't say because the information's coming from Belle. What's fact? And even like there was a few childhood friends who'd certainly dispute facts around many things that Belle has said about her childhood. So it's like, well, it's like a lot of people were saying that her childhood was fine and normal, but you don't know what's going on inside family homes, you know. So maybe she was inferring he was a bit of a sperm donor but lived with them, and like it wasn't a, you know, just
an
a
active
father figure.
Okay,
like you know. So I don't know whether there's some fact in there of that, or whether it's or whether she just has outright lied.
I mean,
on both
you know,
accounts.
to make it look sadder, because
well,
that's what she did. She just tried to elicit, you know, sympathy from everyone. So if that made it look worse that her dad left, you know, and she never knew him, then she would have definitely,
I guess,
tried
depending on the
tact.
person of who she was speaking to, what would get more of more sympathy from them? Would it be that she never knew him, or that he left them at, you know, at a point in their life, so that she, which was going to do, whichever was going to serve her better was what she would tell people. I think.
Yeah, I think you'll find that as we go along. There are many
occasions of this.
Yeah, where she just tailors her story to the person and to what she thinks that is going to serve her best when talking to that particular person or group of
inconsistencies
people.
Are inconsistent.
So her mum Natalie, and she lived with her mum Natalie and stepfather Andrew Del Bello for, you know, part of her childhood. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And she had a younger brother named an older brother named Nick Gibson. So they were the two kids in the family.
Yeah.
Both to the same dad.
Oh, he was younger.
No, he's older.
Okay,
he's
cool.
older. You would think he's younger because of the way she talks about him, but he's actually 2 years older than her.
Okay, right. Because she talks about looking after him all the time.
Yes, exactly. And so you do think he's younger,
that's
but
true.
I mean, I've seen interviews with him, and oh my god, she is such a piece of she's a piece of shit.
There you go, Trish. Drink.
Trish, have a drink.
Sorry, one of
and
our
Peter
commenters said he was going to do a shot every time we said it.
Belle describes her childhood as non-existent. Oh, let's get out the little violin now.
Yeah.
Because she had to care for her older brother and care for her mother who had MS. I mean, her mum did have MS. That is true. She claimed that her brother was autistic, which he is absolutely not. Look, I've seen interviews with him. He says, look, I did have some difficulties with reading and writing, but it was by no means...
doesn't mean you've got autism.
Well, it doesn't mean you've got autism, number one. But also he said he got by. It wasn't inhibiting him from doing anything. Like, he still attended a regular school. He still was able to progress in life. It's just he found those things slightly more difficult than other kids.
And look, the interviews I've seen of him, very articulate, you know, like
very much so.
Yeah, like she's really, again, tried to gain sympathy from people and making false claims on things. Yeah.
As an adult, he's gone on to have a couple of kids of his own, and like he leads a full and very well-rounded life. Like what she's claiming is at odds with what is actual reality in his situation, which
How
again
hurtful.
happens all the time throughout this.
Absolutely.
So Belle's mum had MS and chronic fatigue, and Belle claims that it was her responsibility to cook, clean, do the washing, do the shopping, arrange medical appointments for her mum, pick up her brother from school, which I'm like, or whatever. And none of that, according to Belle's mum, was true. So Belle's mum has only been interviewed a handful of times, or not even a handful, a few times that I could find evidence of.
Yeah.
And the most prominent interview that she did was with the Australian Women's Weekly.
Yeah.
So it was an article. Belle had previously done an interview with the Australian Women's Weekly, which we will absolutely get to down the track.
Yeah.
But Belle's mum refutes this in her sort of counter interview, I guess, to Belle's original one.
Yeah.
Where she basically says that Belle never cared for me, her brother is not autistic, and she's barely done a minute's housework in her life. So does the truth lie somewhere in the middle there?
Yeah.
I mean, to have a mum with a debilitating illness like MS, and her mum did eventually die from MS.
Yep.
So, and we know it's a progressive disease, and I would not, oh my God, to anybody out there who has MS, horrible, awful,
absolutely awful
thing to live with. So I'm sure there were instances where Belle did have to do some extra caring, and that happens in so many households around the world where parents, you know, are unwell and are unable to do things. But by the sounds of it, Belle's actually really embellished what she actually did.
Yeah.
Belle's mum, Natalie, claims that she gave Belle everything she could. So Belle wanted, new clothes. She'd do everything she could to get it. Belle wanted to go and, I don't know, buy makeup, do this, go here, do that.
Yeah.
She said she tried really hard to facilitate all of that and all for both of her kids.
Yeah.
Belle said she and her brother were, Nick, the brother, said he and Belle were very close growing up.
Yeah.
And then something happened.
All of a sudden they weren't.
She changed and all of a sudden, yeah.
Yeah. Which I was reading in one space where she claims this, so I'm not sure if it's true, that at 12 years of age she moved out of the family home and moved in with a classmate. Were you able to find anywhere that confirmed that?
No.
No.
All that we can see, all that I can see is where in her whole Pantry app. So, okay, we're moving a little bit ahead now, but Belle ended up releasing a cookbook based on the app that she'd created. We will get to details of that in a sec. But in this cookbook, in the excerpt that she wrote at the start, it was like 3,000 words or something, and it was her story.
Yeah.
And in that story, she claims that she moved out of home at 12 years young. She didn't say 12 years old, 12 years young, to really elicit that emotional response from people.
Yeah.
And moved in with a friend's family. That's all I can find.
Yeah, because it's kind of inferring from doing that. You're basically saying her family home was, she wasn't able to stay there for whatever reason, and I've had to move out of home and move in with friends who took me in, and it's really eliciting again this empathy from people around. Oh, this poor girl, but I don't know if that's the case, because I also read that she claimed that she did drop out of school at year 10, but she claimed that she didn't actually drop out. She was homeschooled. And it's like, well, which is it? Were you homeschooled and your mum put in effort? Because, homeschooling's not easy.
Post-COVID, we all know that.
So which is it? Your parents have put in and you've decided to homeschool, or they were so terrible you moved out at 12? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Which none of this woman makes any sense.
No.
Yeah.
But again, she's probably told a story that suited her at that moment in time.
Exactly.
And the way she spins her lies, my God.
Oh, yeah. Because another claim that she had was that her mother had changed her name 5 times during her childhood, along with, and that was where the birth certificate thing came into it as well, that she claimed that, she was raised, was her words.
Yes.
I was raised as believing that I was 26 at this point, that her age
But she was actually 24.
Yeah, she was, 23, I think.
23 was it?
Yeah. I mean, it's just insane.
It's crazy. And this was you're referring to the 60 Minutes interview with Tara Brown, which is, oh my God, it is the most infuriating television ever. But hats off to Tara Brown.
Oh, God, yeah.
She is incredible. I think we've actually mentioned her in a previous episode.
I'm sure
I just
of it.
can't remember, but she's amazing.
So good.
And she basically says, tell us what is your date of birth? This is a really simple, straightforward question. She goes, well, I was raised to believe.
Yeah.
No, fuck off. Your date of birth's your date of birth.
Yeah.
And then she says she went by 5 different names, but she can't name any of the names she's gone by.
And the thing is, there'd be evidence of that in terms of, you could pull up very easily, go to birth, deaths, marriages and find those records of what the changes were of her name. Those aliases will always exist. You can change your name all you like. The other name always exists somewhere.
Yeah.
So as we all know who've changed our names, when you've gotten married,
Yes.
So it's not as though that person doesn't exist anymore, and you wipe it. So she should have been able to pull out evidence of that. And there's none to suggest that her birth certificate was ever changed or that her name was ever changed.
The only thing I can come out with this is that her given name is Annabelle, and she goes by Belle. And they're very early on, I think one of her email addresses that she was sending correspondence from was Annabelle _ something.
And that got hacked or something, by a porn site or something. So she abandoned that address, as anyone would.
But even that's a bit anyway.
It was a bit loopy too. Is what
very
happened
loopy.
There. Yeah.
But then everything else is by Belle. So that's the only sort of thing that I could possibly see where there may be. So everything that she says, there's a tiny little bit of potentially a tiny bit of truth in it. And that's what makes it really hard to tease out what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
So I need to also mention just now, because a quote that he stated in one of the things I watched made me think of it, but Bryce Corbett.
Which we love him for other reasons.
We listen to him every single morning. Oh, by the way, I heard Brody shout out this morning. So Bryce Corbett hosts a podcast called Squiz Kids, and we listen to it with our kids every single morning, and it is fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyone who's got primary school age children,
Yeah.
it's a daily news podcast and fun, free, fresh, and it is really great. I find it incredible the stuff that they talk about on there and they teach the kids about. Like they talked about the Trump Zelensky thing. They like it just really up to date. But
the Chinese submarines in the Tasman Sea at the moment, all those they really touch on some quite heavy stuff, but in a real kid friendly way.
Yeah, it's great. It's so good. Anyway, back in the day, Bryce Corbett was the news editor of the Australian Women's Weekly, which was, this is back in magazine days where magazines were life.
Oh,
like
they
people,
were.
The circulation they got was incredible. My grandma used to go up to the news agency every week and get a stack of
Women's Weekly in it, Women's Day,
a new idea. And like, you and I, we would have been reading like the Cosmopolitans and even
Cosmo,
the Dolly.
I loved Cosmo and Cleo. I literally bought them monthly. It
was like a huge portion of my pocket money, but I still bought it anyway. Loved that.
I didn't have any sisters or anything like that. So I learned all my makeup things and my everything about women in there. Like, because my mum certainly didn't want to talk to me about stuff.
So like it's, this is in that era where, magazines were a really big source of information into a household. Anyway, so Bryce, sorry, I'm really getting ahead of myself. But when, he's talking about her, and I'm just sort of now referring to what I was talking about before we started talking about how amazing he is and his podcast is that he was like, anything with Belle was like trying to nail jelly to a wall.
Yeah.
And, he's like, there would be like a glimmer of something that's true, and then you'd have to try and figure out like what that thing was that might have had a bit of truth to it.
She'd talk around everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
not actually answer anything directly.
That's it. It's just really difficult to... get a hold of.
Yeah, but she goes right back. I mean, look, she started this lying, as we're saying, from the very beginning. But you go back to 2009 where she really started to get into like this skate scene. But there was also forums. And you can still go back and so some of these forums are still live, but they're very distant websites. And she has posted on these forums prolifically back in 2009. And you can see like a real escalation in terms of what she's posting about. It starts off with real skate stuff and what have you. But
and
then
she looks like gothic skater. She's got dark hair.
Yeah, it looks
she's
very
wearing
different.
like
no health guru look
no,
kind of thing to
not.
it.
Not that wholesome
very
look.
different look to it all. But she started posting in these forums about having medical episodes, and starting off, I think her first one was some sort of heart condition and having heart surgery, and there were people who in this situation that were dragged into it of like really falling for these things and thinking that she was genuinely ill, and then
there was a boy on this, so this was on skateboard.com.au, this forum that she was posting on a lot around the time, and there was a boy on that forum, a teenager, who did actually have brain cancer, and about 4 months before Belle claimed on these forums that she had brain cancer. This boy had disclosed that on there as well, and he was receiving a lot of attention and support for that on this forum.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he actually passed away from his brain tumour, but then Belle's like run with that, because she saw the attention that he was getting, and
that would repeat itself over and over in how Belle's life. She would like find people in life that had these conditions and things, and she would use their information as her own and take it on and spread those sorts of things. So that's where there were elements of truth because there were other people's stories. They weren't hers, and she would use them to manipulate everyone along the way. But then a lot of it, if you really pin it down, when you look at the things, some of the like particularly medical stuff, medical doctors kind of go, no, that's not even possible. Like that's not like, but as a layperson, just generally speaking, you kind of be like, holy shit,
and
this poor
teenagers
person.
on a forum, like, you don't start to necessarily, even adults don't think critically in situations like that. You take people on face value because you don't expect somebody to lie about having a brain tumour.
But I think that's where and we can get more into this later, but this is where Belle Gibson is the start of people now question if people are sick. You do have to be more critical sometimes when in getting into these sorts of realms, particularly where there's a lot of money involved.
Yeah, agreed.
Where, people, unfortunately, you should be able to just take someone on face value if they say to you, that they have this debilitating disease or what have you. But people need to be critical and go, well, let's just check this out first, because it's, GoFundMes and all these sorts of things can go all sorts of sideways because people lie. And I think Belle was almost the starting of that.
Yeah, I think because she kind of got into the internet scene so early, and we'll get to the Instagram bit in a second.
Yeah.
But she was posting things on this skater forum like, so on the 24th of December in 2008, she actually posted, "My family all sent me packages to my postbox for Christmas and I didn't have time to pick them up today. So Devo, I'm not going to have anything to unwrap tomorrow." Inferring she's in hospital.
Yeah.
Then
and on her own on Christmas and no gifts. Oh.
On the 3rd of May, she posted, in 2009, "I'm going into hospital in a few hours. If one of you charming men don't send me flowers, you're all dead."
Like, and to a degree at that level, I mean, it's all bullshit. But, I mean, teenagers,
we all posted some absolutely horrific things.
The internet was all new and, shiny. And
do you ever get those Facebook memories that come up of posts that you made and it's like, "Emma is going for a walk today." And I'm like, why? How gross. Like, why did I even post that? Who cares that I'm going for a walk? Or Emma is feeling stressed today. And why was I talking about myself in the third person?
Because that was what Facebook came up with when it first started. It was, you had to do that. Then it changed later. You didn't do a status of like what you type out. It was, it always had your name is.
Ew.
Yeah. That was the premise of it from the beginning.
But okay, we were teenagers. That's why we were
I'm claiming it
shit.
as, no, we were just regular teenagers claiming, well, maybe I wasn't. But Belle, I can understand living in that world. I mean, this whole new social media thing, it was new to everyone, and, it would have been quite amazing to be able to communicate with people on that different platform. But you should still be truthful and not lie. Yeah. I mean, there's one thing about lying about how delicious your meal was and putting a photo of it up, and there's one thing of claiming you have brain cancer.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just sick out of people.
Absolutely.
All of these posts continued throughout 2009, 2010, and it was all things like, I've cut my hair for chemo, and she actually did shave the side of her head. She shaved, and she posted photos of that. The things that she was writing were things like, I got told I can leave the hospital tomorrow for the first time in 8 weeks or something, just stuff like that. She was really, really honing it in.
Yeah.
On the 6th of June, this one kind of gets me. On the 6th of June in 2009, she wrote, "I will never forget sitting alone in the doctor's office, waiting for my test results." This she wrote in her whole Pantry excerpt as well. So this was in that as well.
She used it there, but she posted it. Well. Because do we just say that at this point when she's writing it, she's pregnant?
Yeah.
Like legit, not lying. She's
like she actually did have a baby.
Yeah.
He called me in and said, you have malignant brain cancer, Belle. You're dying. You have 6 weeks, 4 months tops. Now.
She was probably 6 weeks away from giving birth at that point. Because she gave birth in July 2009.
Was it July 2010 she gave birth?
No, 18 years of age, 2009.
Was it? Yep, okay. Yep. Yeah, so what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
The father of her son she calls him her best friend. He has nothing to do with any of the bullshit that she was peddling or anything like that. So it's probably worth just mentioning.
I mean,
that.
well, she was 18, and I think so was he, similar age.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're young parents. Obviously, and to fall pregnant, at 17, 18, that's hard to get your head around. And I mean, obviously, plenty of people are pregnant and have babies at that age, and manage and everything, but usually with a big support system around them. Which at this point, I think. My take is that probably from her own doing. At 18, she's pregnant without a family unit around her.
She posted something about a baby shower. I can't quite remember the direct quote, but it was, I definitely haven't written it down, but it was something like, I've got my baby shower tomorrow and I don't think anyone's coming over for it.
That scene in Apple Cider Vinegar, like that got me a bit. Like, but I don't know if that was accurate. Like,
Oh, that
That is
actually,
probably
she
accurate.
did definitely post that. I've read
Yeah.
read it in a
yeah.
like in where they've somebody has actually transcribed all of her posts
Yes,
onto a
I've-
website.
yeah.
And so she definitely posted that.
Yeah, no, but I wasn't sure with the scene that they depicted that
right.
in Apple Cider Vinegar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hit me hard when I watched it, kind of going, if that's true, if that's what happened to her, that then no one showed up, like legit, like that is sad. That is really
It's sad,
like,
but why didn't they show up?
well, this is it, because potentially people were already like,
burnt by her.
You're not my person. Like, I
Yeah.
don't really. This isn't adding up for me, or
Yeah.
it's I think she's that's sad, though, that she can't. She should have been able to be celebrated then. But yeah, again, it's a bit of her own doing, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, she'd already alienated her mum by that point.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and had she moved to Perth then?
No, she was in Melbourne by
Melbourne
that stage.
still, yeah.
I think she moved to Perth. Oh, no, sorry. She actually gave birth in 2010. She moved,
thought it was
moved to
2010.
Melbourne in 2009.
Yeah, okay.
She gave birth in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so her little son, Oliver, was born then.
Yeah.
Now, look, this is like early Instagram times as
Yes.
well. So she was probably one of the first wellness. Bryce Corbett actually said she's the person who made wellness a noun.
Yeah, it wasn't even a thing before
Yeah.
her, really. Yeah.
Yeah, so she was like the first wellness
Influencer, yeah.
Before we even knew what an influencer was.
Nobody called her that in 2012 when she was posting.
That's it.
It's what we now refer to her as, and now they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her handle was at healing_Belle, and the aesthetic of her, what she was posting was divine.
Not like my Instagram feed in 2012.
No, it's not
Those
even like my
shit
Instagram
filters.
feed now. Not that I really post much, but
Yeah.
it was so curated
Yeah.
and so aesthetically pleasing. It was very nice. to
Just
look
put
at.
that out there. She's talented.
Yeah,
Like, there is no doubt that I think remove her lying, that she couldn't have made something of herself. Like, with all that, her skill and ability in doing that is phenomenal. What she went and did was amazing.
and she had amazing instincts. Take away all the lying,
Yep.
and we'll get to all of her. Some of her actual fraud.
Yeah.
Take all that away, she could have actually had an empire.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
'Cause she's a
She
clever
was
girl.
Forefront of all of that. I mean, what influencer who didn't even know the term yet? I mean, they weren't even. She was the first of that. She was a pioneer in that sense. Were doing apps and things.
Yeah.
Like, it was just. She was legit a pioneer in this sector that so many other people have followed down the same path that she has, without lying, and have created a very wealthy empire for themselves.
Yeah.
She could have been there.
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
no, she fucked it all up.
Oh, yeah.
So this is about around the same time in terms of wellness influencers that Pete Evans came to the fore with his activated almonds and paleo diet. Oh, funny
the
story
bone
on
broth.
paleo. You know when you read a word but you've never heard it said before?
Like bit A the other week when
Oh, bit it. That was funny. Peter, we were talking about this, and he said this was like years and years and years ago, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, like those paleo diets." I'm like, "Mate, it's paleo." Yeah, like paleontology.
paleontology,
Anyway, but this is sort of around the same time that he was coming to the fore with his bloody bone broths and whatever else
Yeah.
he was peddling. Oh my God, thank God that man's no longer.
Well, he is, but he's just underground more.
Well, he needs to be.
He's got tons of followers.
Yeah, but he needs to be like, okay, if you
You're
want to
over
follow
there.
him, that's on you. But cool. Belle Gibson's Instagram bio at the time said, Belle Gibson, game changer with brain cancer and a food obsession. Game changer. Game changer.
Okay.
Self-confessed, self-appointed game changer. I mean, she was. I guess she was.
you
But
know.
I just find it like, I don't know, a bit on the nose. I don't know.
I do, because I reckon if you really legit had brain cancer, that wouldn't be in your bio.
No. But also, if you had brain cancer, I don't know, would you be, I guess everybody's different. I'm like, would you be posting stuff and putting all your energy into making an app and curating your Instagram? But then I guess for some people that might be a welcome distraction from actual brain cancer and chemo and treatment and whatever else goes along with it.
If you were having all those treatments.
If you were actually doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Belle remained to, like, she looked very
She was
healthy.
the picture of health.
She claimed to...
legit, like, looked... I mean, she's an attractive, beautiful girl.
beautiful.
But, you know, she had luscious, thick hair. I mean, many people with cancer do not have that, you know, luxury along the way. Her skin, glowy. She was, to me, in a lot of ways, the perfection of a figure in terms of she wasn't skin and bones. She had a bit of meat on her. She was, you know, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Like, so to me, honestly, if the people who were really suffering with cancer, to look at her, you would feel so shit about yourself.
People have said that. People have come out and said that. Like, oh my God, Belle's got cancer. And she's got the same, she's got brain cancer and I've got brain cancer. I'm looking like death while undergoing traditional, conventional treatment. And she looks amazing, because what Belle actually claimed was that she did a round of chemo and radiation and then she decided to explore alternative therapies. So what she said was she was concentrating on diet, on Gerson therapy and meditation.
Yeah.
So I just wrote down what Gerson therapy is for everyone. So it's called Hirsch therapy in apple cider vinegar. Hirsch therapy is a made up thing.
Yes.
But
Gerson
what they're actually referring to is
a legit
Gerson.
thing.
Yeah, is a legit thing.
Yeah.
So if you're undergoing this Gerson therapy, you are drinking 13 glasses of organic vegetable juice every single day. Every hour on the hour.
Yeah.
You are eating organic vegan meals with no sugar or fat, minimal carbohydrate. You are not drinking alcohol or having any type of drug, illicit or not. You drink castor oil every second day, which basically makes you shit yourself.
Yep. If the fruit smoothies and shit and the fruit vegetable isn't already.
Yep. On top of that, you then have 5 coffee enemas a day.
Every day.
Now,
5
your
coffee
gut
enemas.
flora, after having 5 coffee enemas a day, would be shot to shit.
We know now, like, how gut health is so important, that many enemas cannot be good for you.
Oh, no.
It can't.
Now, the other thing is, so I think it's probably worth just really quickly touching on Jess Ainscoe at this point in time. So she was another wellness influencer. She was a journalist by trade, but she was a wellness influencer who was diagnosed with like tumours in her arms.
It started with,
she decided to not to undertake conventional therapy or conventional treatment or Western, modern medicine treatment. And she decided just to do Gerson therapy.
Yeah.
Now, she did it to the T. She went over to Mexico. She went to the Gerson Institute over there. She did this hook, line and sinker and she died.
Yeah. I mean, I think she certainly, it might have given her a bit of extra time. I don't know.
Doctors are saying that the medical professionals say that she had about 2 years to live and she may have pushed it out by a few months.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
But even that could have happened whether she did Gerson or not.
And her fear at the time was that, because basically where they're at was like, we need to amputate your arm and that's what'll save you. And she wasn't prepared to do that, which, that's
I don't
tough.
understand that.
I don't, but I guess each to their own in that situation. That I understand that would be huge and hard.
And she was a young woman, so identity is a big thing. I know when you're a person of any age, but in particular when you're sort of
and in the circles that she mixed in too, in terms of she was a journalist for I think Cosmo, even was she?
Yes, I believe
Cosmo,
so. At
wasn't
some
it?
point, yeah.
So it would have been a bit of a vain thing, in terms of that wanting to keep the appearance that she had.
Yeah, she was like absolutely hard line on this though as well. Her mum actually developed bowel cancer and her mum opted to sort of try the same alternative medicine pathway and she died.
She died before
Jess did.
Yeah.
But the thing is, her mum's cancer was actually curable and so was Jess's cancer.
Yeah, yeah.
So, they were Jess in particular, she had a massive following as well.
Yeah. she
was encouraging people to do the same thing as her. So ethically, I find that so tough to swallow. It's.
But let's just also say though, so her character in Apple Cider Vinegar, which is played by a Miller, they use her Miller Blake is the name, and they sort of there's inference that this is that they're referring to Jess in that scenario. and in Apple Cider Vinegar, it's played out as if like these two were rivals in terms of Belle Gibson and Jess being rivals in the influencer wellness sector. You know, but that's one massive part of the story that is not true. No. They knew of each other, but they were not in any way rivalry. They weren't friends. They were.
Or anything.
They didn't. I mean, there is a common person between them of Chanel. I can't remember the name in the show that they use for her. It might even be the same name.
They do. Her name is Chanel in the show. In ACV, in Apple Cider Vinegar as well.
They plant her in the show as like Belle's manager and was previously Jess's manager, but she was never. She just happened to know. She became friends with Belle. She knew Jess, but only out of just through other people. So that's all very false, and I don't like it. That's how they play the storyline. That this is two women who women have to pit against each other. That's just not what this was. They're very different stories. In that, So Jess was legitimately unwell and legitimately fighting cancer. And was doing it in a different way to using mainstream medicine, and yes, pushing it potentially onto other people. And I don't agree with that ethically. Yeah. Whereas Belle was doing the same thing, but she was also lying about having cancer. So I think there was. But
then Belle also took it another step further and claimed things that were untrue as well. Absolutely. On top of outside of treatment and cancer.
Like Gerson's not well known for everyone, but people within that, if you're looking into alternative medicines for cancer, Gerson is well known. So it wasn't like she was pulling from nowhere in terms of making the stuff up herself. She was following other people's recommendations
or whatever,
and then spruiking it herself. But those people are charlatans, though, aren't they? Like, I mean, they've that's an issue altogether.
Yeah, it's a completely separate issue. Look, I'm all for people choosing their path and you do you, you know? But don't then go out and try and
tell
influence other people to do
that.
the same thing because and she was very influential.
Yeah.
As was Belle.
So influential.
Belle had people who wanted to stop traditional treatment, proven treatment in favour of bloody organic food.
Yeah, thinking, well, I could look as healthy and well as she does, which that's what I just can't stand. That's what got me,
because you see these really sick people who are undergoing traditional treatments like chemotherapy. That's so rough on a person.
Yeah, and you should, and in that you're fighting. You're in the absolute trenches of fighting cancer. No judgment on whether you have hair. No judgment on whether you look unwell.
Yeah,
that should be the least of anyone's concerns when you are the hero in that and you are fighting your battle.
Yeah.
To then look at someone like Belle and think, oh, but I'm not doing good enough because I'm not looking like her.
Yeah.
And being able to be as healthy as her, that's just absolutely, that's you manipulating people at the absolute heighten of it. It's just,
horrible.
Yeah.
In 2014, Belle released the world's first health, wellness and lifestyle app called the Whole Pantry.
Yeah, so it won the best food and drink app of 2013. So
from Apple.
Yeah.
Around this same time, around the launch of the Whole Pantry, she claimed that her cancer had spread to her blood, spleen, uterus and liver.
Yeah.
And her closest friends found out about this through Instagram. She just posted that on Instagram one day.
Yeah.
And one of her friends was like, I can't believe she didn't talk to us about this. Like, this is huge and this is going to be devastating, you know. And she's like, I've got primary and secondary cancers. Now, world-leading neurologists and neurosurgeons have been asked about this. Now, first of all, Belle never officially, I think she told friends that her brain cancer was a glioblastoma.
Yeah, she did.
I don't think she ever posted that publicly. She only said she had a malignant brain cancer. There are hundreds of different types of brain cancer, and you would know which one you had.
Yeah. Well, yes.
If you had it.
Yeah. Your doctor would certainly explain to you what one you had and what the path of treatment for that would be.
And with a glioblastoma, which is the most common type of brain cancer, it is essentially a fatal cancer. There are treatments that can prolong your life. The other thing to note with it is that it almost never spreads beyond the brain and spinal cord.
Yeah.
She claimed that it spread to her blood, spleen, uterus and liver.
Yep. She also claimed that how she got the cancer, she blamed it on the Gardasil cervical vaccine.
Yes. See, that in and of itself, that has been transformative for our generation of...
I legit know people who we were talking about who didn't go and get that vaccine because they were followers of Belle. And so because she was constantly like she would post on her Instagram things like, fuck the government for giving me cancer. When it's not true.
It's not true. And also, how does she claim the Gardasil vaccination gave her a fucking brain cancer? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Her app was chosen by Apple around this time too to feature. So this is when Apple Watches came out.
Yeah.
And and her app was chosen as one of the apps that were going to come preloaded on the first Apple Watch.
That's huge.
Huge. So apparently what they wanted it to do was basically, if you say you'd chosen a meal plan on the app, when you walked past a Whole Foods, or this is like American centric, but say you walked past a supermarket, it would ping you and be like, oh, organic produce
food
is available.
Way.
Yeah, basically.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they worked really hard to make it, really, I guess, user-friendly for those who wanted to use it in that way.
Yeah.
And it was integrated.
It's massive. I mean, she was
things
over...
like Twitter were hard-loaded onto this. And then the whole Pantry. Like...
So random.
So random. But she had them hook, line and sinker. She was over there for months helping them develop to migrate the app onto the watch.
And you would think that, I mean, she was standing in you look at the crowd of people who were going to be loaded onto this app, onto this watch to begin with. I mean, the names that reeled off of like different apps that it was, they are huge corporations.
Yeah.
Like you're talking the Twitter, Target, these sorts of places that were named as also being hard loaded onto the watch. They would have had massive teams of people at Apple developing these apps to be included on that. And there's Belle on her own. Wouldn't that be a red flag to you that this maybe won't be someone we can work with?
Okay, this is another thing. We've talked about this in other episodes as well. Where was the due diligence? How did Apple be like, yep, we're going to do this and not have any record, any proof that her story was true and legitimate?
The only way I can come at it is, and I'll say this again and again, there are elements of it, and it's been very much her book and things that she did bring out next. It can be on its own, can be used as a healthy... There are parts of it within there that are untrue, absolute bullshit and really dangerous. But the majority of like the recipes and these sorts of things as just a healthy way of living, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but she sold it as a brain cancer survivor.
Absolutely. So the only way I can come at it is that Apple were looking at it as a, organic foods kind of app. If that's if that was what their intention of it was... I can see the idea of them not looking into her cancer because they're not going, this is a cancer treatment app. This is everybody's kind of organic access to food app. That I can see a path. But you still have to look into the person that's overseeing all of that.
Did you find out how much she got paid for this?
No, nowhere.
It's not disclosed anywhere.
No, they backed away very quickly and very quietly.
Yes.
So all of a sudden it was, in 2014, in the September, it was announced that it would be loaded onto the app. By the March of 2015, the articles had started to come out, like basically that she was, a charlatan. And so the April 2015, the watch was launching, and by the time it was launched, it was nowhere to be seen.
No, and no mention of it.
No.
She landed a book deal with Penguin to produce a cookbook under the same name, so under the whole Pantry sort of umbrella. She was given a $132,000 advance. Now, apparently this is unheard of for an unproven author.
Yeah.
So authors like, I'm talking the J.K. Rowlings of the world, they're the ones who get these massive advances because they know the book's going to be successful. They know what's going to come. Belle was unproven. Like, how did she get this?
Oh, I know. It is crazy.
It's mental. She also won the Cosmopolitan magazine Fun Fearless Female Award that year. And there's a photo of her. You can look it up wherever you go. Look it up online, Google it, whatever. She's wearing this white top or white dress she's got bright red lips. Her hair's beautifully, thick and gorgeous in a ponytail. And she's the one with supposed terminal brain cancer.
Yeah.
Winning this award.
Mm-hmm. And she gave a real heartstring pull speech that day. And from all accounts of people who were there, that was, not a dry eye in the house.
Because it's a harrowing story.
Yeah, but it was all fake.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
All bullshit. Just really quickly, I looked up how much it cost to download the whole Pantry app.
Yep.
So it was $3.79 per download. That was US.
Yeah.
$3.79. And it was downloaded in the first month 200,000 times.
Yes.
So that just gives you a bit of an idea where we're at.
I think within the first, I was actually just looking for my figures. It was around $1 million worth of sales were between the app and the book. By the time, and we're talking a fairly short space of time, within 12 months, less than 12 months of the app and the book coming out, and this being all shut down and then pulling out, there was over $1 million worth of sales. That was a lot of money.
That was app alone.
Sorry?
App alone.
App alone, you think?
Yep, 100%.
Right.
It was
I can't find my notes
app
on it.
alone.
Yeah.
But I mean, the book sold, I think they originally printed something like 16,000 copies. They were sold in a heartbeat.
They're now selling
on
eBay for $650 and stuff. It's
because
insane.
People just want to get their hands on it because it's such a topic of interest at the minute.
Yeah.
Don't buy a book, guys.
Don't. Well, I mean, at least the money's not going to her, I guess.
Well,
now.
that's true. They haven't, of course,
they're not going to reprint
copies.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's just insane. But so around this time, though, where she was this is also, it's at an absolute peak, the app's out, the book's coming out. The book was launched in October 2014.
Yep.
By December 2014, she was looking at growing this into something else again. And we don't really know what, because it was only at early stages. But there was an advertisement she put out to recruit an IT specialist. And she also registered the name The Whole Life.
Yes.
So she was going to be shifting this from not just, I guess, food-based stuff into something else as well.
Well, I feel like it was going to be a whole lifestyle type app. I feel like she was kind of trying to develop what she'd done with Apple that she could then obviously own and release and whatever.
And again, this is an intelligent freaking woman to be able to, this is the start of apps. This is the start of all that stuff in your Instagram and influencer stuff again. And
absolutely.
She's evolving her company and her business as it's going. And if you remove all this bullshit lie and have just done that without that side of it, I still think she would have been an incredibly successful person.
Quite possibly even to this day.
Yep.
Because people, the wellness industry is a
It's
multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide.
People are going to pay money. People are out there and want to use this stuff.
And Instagram, it's all about the aesthetics, and she had it all.
Yep, she knew you had to do that before the rest of us knew you had to do that.
Exactly. Before we started posting the bullshit, Valencia filters on our photos. She knew not to do that early on.
Oh, because you've told me, because God, they're shit.
I know, it's so bad. She also, around this time, she started to do interviews. I mean, not start to do interviews. She'd been doing interviews all the way through because people were so interested in her story. But around this time is when she was like, we donate so much of a portion of our income to charities.
Yeah.
She said that in the month where they earned the least amount in the whole Pantry app, they earned $700 and they still donated 25% of that to charity.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. She also, excuse me. She also claimed that most months she would either donate 90, 95 or 100% of the proceeds of the app to charities.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I get donating to charity. That's great. And I think she absolutely should be, because she's earning all this money. She's got a platform. She's obviously attracting people who have cancer and other diagnoses who would benefit from a whole food diet and all that sort of stuff. Great.
Yeah.
Yes, you should be giving back. No company is sustainable giving back 90, 95, 100% of your profits. You can't sustain that.
No.
No one can sustain that.
Yeah.
So Red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. She claimed that they were promising $300,000 worth of donations to charity. All of $7,000 was able to be found that were actually donated.
Weren't they donated in Clive's name?
One of them was.
Okay.
One of them was.
We'll get to Clive in one sec.
Yeah, let's. But two, like $1,000 and then another $1,000 of that 7,000 were done right as she literally got emails from journalists asking questions. Like you can track the
scoundrel.
payments. Yeah. So she was like, she was trying to cover her
like,
tracks
oh, fuck, I got
with a
put up.
$1,000 donation when you're promising 300,000.
She was living such a lavish lifestyle as well. She was flying first class. She was going on international holidays all the time.
So-
She lived in this $1 million beachfront
Rented an
apartment.
upmarket townhouse, leasing a luxury car and office space, undergo cosmetic dental procedures, purchased designer clothing, and holidaying internationally was how she spent most of her money.
She had like a $15,000 handbag.
Yeah.
Now, donate that $15,000 to charity. Nobody needs a $15,000 handbag.
No.
Come on. Come on.
That's
That just
nice.
makes me so fucking angry. It makes me so mad.
When you're claiming that's who you are
Yeah.
out in public,
Yeah.
that's, that those sorts of things wouldn't matter to you. Like
Yeah.
sort of, that you're living this particularly different lifestyle to that. But then in the background you are
Yeah.
doing those things. That's what makes it off. It's the lie about it. If you want to buy $15,000 handbags and you can afford them, then go for it. No worries.
absolutely, no
But you're
judgment.
claiming all your money's going to charity and then you're not doing that and buying handbags. Fuck you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Should we talk about Clive for a minute?
Let's, because this guy, okay, I have to say, so the Apple Cider Vinegar drama series, it's not factual. Like there's so many things in it that aren't true. But I got to like the Clive character, right, in it, because I watched this actually when it first came out, which is before we were researching for this. I kind of stupidly watched it early. But anyway, went back and rewatched. My initial reaction to Clive in watching that was, well, clearly this is the part of the story that's not true. Right? Because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no one is either this dumb or no one is like this sort of person. Like he's so unusual in the show. And it turns out in my research, that's a character they got literally down to a T, spot on exactly who he was. That blows my mind.
I know.
Blows
It's
my
crazy.
mind.
So Clive Rothwell met Belle when Oliver was really young. Her son Oliver was very, very young. They lived together for, well over a decade.
Yeah, they met in 2010.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Oliver was only a few months, old.
Yeah.
He is an IT consultant, I think, or
Well,
something.
no one really knows, and neither does Belle.
Well, yeah, apparently, because Belle went to, like, in her
court.
testimony in court, they asked her what he does for a job, and she said, I don't know.
Yeah, and then they say, well, what sort of income does he have? Oh, that's none of my business.
Oh, yeah.
And that they're not in a relationship.
Yeah,
They were just friends.
they were just friends.
But in every way, everyone else around them called them, that was her partner.
Well, he basically raised Oliver.
Yeah.
He was Oliver's father for all intents and purposes. I know Oliver had a relationship with his biological father, but he wasn't present day to day.
No.
That was Clive.
That's another thing around with Oliver, with her son and stuff. In the show, there's some really harrowing scenes around her being a pretty shit-house mother. And everyone, her friends and stuff that knew her, that is something they said about her, was that she was a really good mum.
Yeah.
And I think that's awful, and they've depicted that in that show to make out that she wasn't. That makes me a bit...
Oh, it doesn't
That's
sit
not
right.
right.
It's not nice.
No. So, I mean, I think it's easy to sort of think that, Clive was sort of there protecting her son from her being an evil mother and stuff too, but that's not the case.
But I think
he very much cared for her son.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he was the more present parent because she was off doing all
busy
these things.
and-
She was very busy. Well,
you know,
and
if
keeping
it was
up
all-
these lies takes a lot of energy and time.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, working mum, I get it. Like, you got to, come together as partners and, raise the child. But from all accounts, from friends, etc., she was a good mum. So,
Yeah. So
just wanted
Clive
to say
isn't
that.
technically linked with any of her crimes, but as in, I guess, officially.
Yeah.
But then he lived in a house with her for over a decade and he saw all of the things. Surely he questioned what the fuck was going on, and the fact that she said when he met her that she had a terminal brain tumour or malignant brain tumour or however she described it, and 10 odd years later she's still alive. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, I think he knew that. I think he was just in on it.
He must have been.
But there's no evidence, like, really that's alleged.
Like, did he that lifestyle, and that's kind of what kept him there? Did Oliver keep him there?
But it seems as though he had a bit of money, to be honest. Like, because he's kept up the things now. Like,
yeah.
Like, later after all this, he's the one who's paid for stuff.
I believe that might be due to an inheritance.
Yeah, right.
Allegedly.
Yeah, right.
So I think he's been able to continue that on because of that.
Yeah.
Because what you're referring to is the fact that, like, literally this year, was it? Or late last year?
No, it would have been earlier because it's 2023. He was seen with a new partner.
Okay, so maybe it was in 2022 or early
somewhere around that. So up until about 2019, they were definitely living together and definitely part of each other's lives. And then they went off the radar because there was no more court hearings and things. He wasn't part of any of that. But it's believed that they were living together, and up until 2023 there's nothing sort of to prove that they weren't together.
Yeah.
As of 2023 he was seen with another woman who was clearly his partner. So we sort of can make the assumption that they were together until, till then.
Yeah, but when all this shit came tumbling down, which we'll get to now, for Belle, he definitely fiscally supported her through that. So you're right. He obviously had some money and then wanted to help her out in this situation, which again,
but he has remained completely. He has not answered any questions. No. He has never
done an
come
interview,
forward
never
whatsoever.
said anything publicly.
No. He's completely out of it. This picture with it's completely Belle in forefront of all this and not him. But I think he's complicit in it. Like,
I feel like
he could not
even
be.
as a bystander and not saying anything.
Yeah.
If you see something, say something. And he didn't.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite an age gap between him and Belle. And I wonder then this is where her faking her age thing might have come into it, because obviously when she's met him, she was 18?
18.
Yeah. And I mean, he would have been 30s.
I think he was pushing 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
But then, so she said she's like 2 or 3 years older, and that made all the difference. Like, not really, but anyway. Just going back to the donations and pledges to charities, one of the things that got me was that she pledged to donate from her app download income to Joshua Schwartz and his family. Now, they are depicted in Apple Cider Vinegar. Oh, what's their character's name? I think I've written it down. Where is it?
I want to say like Charlie or something. No.
Hunter. And this is a boy who did have a glioblastoma, and he actually passed away from the disease. She never gave a single cent to that family.
She promised to help raise money for him, and then, just never gave any.
Never gave it. So it's one thing to deny a claim to a charity organisation, I think, but when it's personal like that, and she befriended his mum, they kind of really became intertwined in each other's lives.
Yes.
And she used him.
Oh.
She used him.
Well,
There's photos of him on her blogs and websites and all of that. Disgusting.
But she used him for his story too, because she would then use parts of what he was experiencing and saying, "Oh yeah, this happened to me."
Talking about the seizure.
Yeah.
So at Belle's son Oliver's 4th birthday, we now know, faked a seizure. Apparently, it was traumatizing to everyone who saw it because she just collapsed, and apparently it went on for
40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. And I've heard Chanel talk about this, who was witness of it.
Yeah.
This is one of her friends who was there, and apparently, like, midway through her having this seizure, which, seizures can be not too serious for people. You just need to maintain, as a first aid kind of situation, maintain that they've got their airways and things like that, and, protect them and that sort of stuff. And that's all you can really do. But as they're witnessing this and it's getting more intense, like, well, maybe we do need help. And she just made the statement, I think we need to call an ambulance now. Like, it's been going on for too long. And she made that statement, and Belle just kind of came out of the seizure and said, no, I don't want any Western medicine. Like, no, don't call an ambulance. And then went back into the seizure. What the fuck? And apparently this is like for Chanel, this was sort of the moment when she went home from this happening, kind of went, that's not sitting right with me that
and
was
then
legit.
it made her then critically think about
Everything.
lots of other things that happened.
Yeah.
So Chanel then decided that it was time to confront Belle about all this because, and as you said, this was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. I think she'd had some red flags along the way, but this was the thing where she was like, fuck, mate, this has gone beyond now.
Yeah.
And so Chanel actually enlisted one of their other friends, a male friend, and they decided to do what is known as like an intervention, I guess.
Yeah.
So they rock up to Belle's house and they're like, right, we need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Tell me, do you have cancer?
Yeah. Show me
some evidence.
Some evidence.
No, even just that simple question, which has a yes or no answer. She didn't have a yes or no answer.
It should have been of course I do, you motherfuckers. How dare you question
fuck
me?
off. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
No, it wasn't that. But it also wasn't a I don't.
I believe I do.
Yeah. So what Chanel actually gained from this conversation was that Chanel had been diagnosed not by a doctor in a hospital.
Belle had been diagnosed.
Sorry.
Yeah,
What did I say? Chanel.
Chanel.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, good.
Chanel gleaned from Belle that she had not been diagnosed in a hospital, that she'd been diagnosed by a doctor in the suburbs called...
Phil.
I just
I
wrote a
wouldn't
bit
have been
about
able to keep a straight face when she said it.
Oh
I'd be
my
like,
God. I
"Are
mean,
you
even
for
when
real?"
Chanel tells the story now, she gets a smirk when she says that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so
Couldn't she,
fucking
mate?
ridiculous.
Call him anything else. Dr. Craig, Dr. Brad.
Whatever.
Like, what the fuck?
Dr. Phil, it was like,
Phil.
because she had to be like, quick, Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, in his own right,
Yeah.
is problematic. The actual, like, Dr. Phil McGraw.
Oh, that's a whole other show we can
we could
definitely
absolutely.
do. Oh, there's so much wrong there.
So much. I mean, he's got lots to answer for. But anyway, so the fact that she used him as the name, interesting. But not that Dr. Phil, obviously not
No.
that Dr. Phil.
Just a random quack.
She admitted that her diagnosis from him was questionable because he'd gone missing. Dr. Phil went missing.
Now, let's just say also, he's gone missing to the point of like no one can actually find that this man ever existed.
Yeah, because he's made up. Oh, sorry. He lives in LA with Robin. Who's
Yeah,
like,
there's-
blah,
yeah.
blah,
There's
gross.
no evidence of this man ever existing.
No.
No.
Oh, it's just, it's so complicated.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
so
she claimed that Dr. Phil like had a box, which I'm getting such Elizabeth Holmes vibes from this. Like where she starts explaining that there was a box with lights on it, and they attached these, electrodes to one to my back and one to the underneath of the chair. What's
and the
that
box
reading?
was under the chair. Yeah, her pop-ups.
And then it did its thing, and then that told me that I had brain cancer.
And it came out and it had a number, and that means I've got brain cancer.
Oh.
And apparently this guy was like an acupuncturist or something as well, and like just
Yeah. Oh, nothing wrong with. I mean, I'm all for acupuncture.
Oh, totally,
Absolutely.
But an acupuncturist can't diagnose brain cancer.
No, like I mean, you're not going to your acupuncturist to say, "Do I have cancer?"
Yeah, that's it, and that's what she was claiming. So
So then she's sort of claiming from this basically that I've been duped. Like I believed I had cancer. I was told I had cancer when it turns out I didn't. So all this time, I was living my life thinking I was curing cancer with what I was doing. Turns out I wasn't even sick. What
the fuck? But then she backpedals on that really quickly too.
So who are these multiple? Because I mean, if she's had multiple diagnoses along the way, she's touching base with this Dr. Phil who's telling her more of this story, which none of it adds up.
But Chanel's like, show me a brain scan, show me an MRI, show me a doctor's report.
Don't keep those things, Emma, because they've got negative energy.
It's all about the energy and my chakras and and the Gerson therapy. Yeah. So. Look,
I don't think she's ever done a fucking coffee enema in her life.
Of course she hasn't. Of course she hasn't.
Because this Chanel also talks about where, like, once she sort of realised about this, saw this episode with the seizure that was like, what? That's not right. She started thinking about things and went, hang on a minute, there's that night where we drank shitloads. She was the one ordering the shots. And she did say to her at the time, she did call her out at the time and kind of go, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. And she fobbed her off with we're just living my one life. I haven't got long to live, so I'm going to live it up. Like, yeah, no, she just, lived like that.
But then other friends say she drank wine
Drank
all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Nothing wrong with that.
She wasn't. No, there's not. There's absolutely
but when you're
not.
claiming that you
are doing this Gerson therapy and that's
living
curing your
clean living
cancer.
and that's all you do not, you know, she was claiming that that's what she was living on a day-to-day basis all the time. She never steered anywhere away from it because that was what was curing her cancer.
Yeah. And then that obviously wasn't true.
God, no.
So Chanel was like, so basically after this intervention, she still wouldn't admit really to anything in concrete, you know, and Chanel suspected that, there was fraud in terms of the donations to charities and things like that. So Chanel she went to a lawyer, a criminal lawyer, and they basically said, "No, you're defaming her by saying this. You need to fuck right off and stop it." She went to the police. She tried multiple avenues to catch her out and basically call her on her shit, and nobody was really listening. So she decided to actually contact a couple of journalists at The Age.
Yeah.
So these journalists, Nick Toscano and Bo Donnelly, they took on her story and they really ran with it. They started investigating it straight away, and they decided to take the tact of, okay, we're going to investigate the charity fraud because that's something tangible that we can prove.
That's all
or
they could
disprove.
prove straight off.
That's it.
So they could do research in the background. I mean, you can't get access to people's medical, information.
No.
Whereas the charity stuff is totally gettable.
And it should be transparent. If there's something there to find, we will find it. So they released a story in The Age basically calling her out on her charity fraud because every charity that they contacted had no records of Belle ever donating to them.
Well, they did send her an email asking her 21 questions.
Yes.
And she didn't respond.
Well, she didn't.
She responded eventually with a 1,500-word email that addressed next to none of the concerns in their original email.
Yeah. But she was just talking around it.
So yeah, that's what she would do. Like rather than actually confronting it and answering those questions straight up and being able to say, "Of course I've donated to those charities. Here's the receipts." She would just be like, "Oh, but it's a weight on that happening, and it's just not. It doesn't happen like that." And talk.
Yeah.
No.
And it was all bullshit.
Yeah.
Around the same time, Richard Gilliatt, who was a journalist at the Australian newspaper, his wife actually had cancer, and they were in the process of sort of researching and, I guess you receive a diagnosis like that. Of course, you're going to turn to the internet and do your own research.
And look, whatever you can do, like to make, things easier or, help you through those stages. You look for alternative things as well as modern medicine.
You want to be as healthy as you can, I guess. And anyway, so in the process of this, they came across Belle Gibson's page, and Richard, of his own volition, was like, I smell a rat, basically.
Yeah.
And so he decided that he was going to do a piece on Belle. Unbeknownst to him, Nick Toscano and Bo Donnelly from The Age were actually investigating her as well.
He was from the Australian?
He was from the Australian, Richard Gilliatt, He was able to secure an interview on the record with Belle, and they met at a cafe, and Belle was late because she claimed she was in a car accident on the way to, which wasn't true, on the way to the...
She just can't help
herself. But he asks her directly in that interview, on the record, "Do you have cancer?" And she basically says, she talks around it. She doesn't give a direct answer. She talks around it, but she essentially says she doesn't.
Yeah. It's the first time she ever admits it.
On the record.
Yeah.
Well, probably ever, actually, not even whether on the record or not.
No. Yeah. So that was April 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's 3/4 of the way, he reckons, through writing the story up, and that's when The Age released the charity fraud article.
Yeah.
And so he's like, pressure was on. I was like, tomorrow we've got to publish
He
this.
literally head down, palm up, I've got to finish this.
Yeah. And he basically published that her cancer wasn't real. And that really, I mean, her life must have, her whole being must have unraveled in those moments.
I just don't know. I don't think for someone that level of whatever's going on with her psychologically, I think that at a point she actually goes, "Oh, I'll be able to spin this."
Yeah. Well, because then she did.
She tried and tried.
She tried.
Yeah.
So her followers, when these articles came out, were posting things on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, messages of support to her. Things like, we don't believe a word they say.
Yeah, they were
and
backing her.
Backing her
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
The way she duped people,
yeah.
it's just crazy.
Yeah,
It's
they had been
absolutely
full-blown
crazy.
manipulated.
Yes.
And yeah. So it wasn't really, I guess, until like the 60 Minutes interview that comes into it then. I mean, Tara Brown does an awesome job in that interview. There is actually a podcast, 60 Minutes Extra Minutes.
Yes.
And there's one where they talk about the woman who booked Belle Gibson for that and how they got her, which was not easy to do.
Well, they paid her $75,000. That
Yes,
wouldn't have
that
been...
would have been a bit of a helper. But Tara and her talk about the interview and how it all went and how it played out. And so it's an interesting listen for sure. Check that out. Because how do you interview someone like her? Like when you're not getting any answers, and you can see, I know in that podcast, Tara talks about that she was told not to put her grumpy face on, like, and scare her kind of thing. Because you have to play gently to try and you have to almost try and manipulate her back to be able to get some honesty out of her, which is so wrong.
They were never going to get that.
No.
And Tara, we spoke about this at the start of this episode. Tara Brown just asks her what her birth date is and can't get a straight answer.
No.
Like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
Come on. And, I was raised to believe this, and I believed this, and I was told this. None of that
So it's
was
like
true.
this is where we move into that realm of them listening to that. It's what potentially true narcissism, because she's not willing to take any accountability of like, but other people have done this to me. It's not me who's done this. Someone else has created this for me. I'm poor me. Someone else's fault. So I also read some stuff about a particular Dr. Feldman, who is from, University of Alabama. He's a professor of psychiatry, and he's come out and commented around the Belle Gibson story and what he thinks has gone on for her psychologically. Because we can sort of look at this as like a Munchausen kind of situation. And again, we've spoken again with the Gypsy case where we spoke about malingering by proxy as well. But malingering is it's a distinct diagnosis from factitious disorder. And it's the one where it sort of focuses more on the things they can gain from it, like, money, drugs, all those sorts of things, rather than it being the actual tangible things you can get out of it, the incentives, rather than the empathy.
Attention
and
or
attention.
whatever. Yep.
Right. So he talked about that, but he's also coined a new term called Munchausen by internet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was in the year 2000 he coined that term, with obviously this growth of social media and people accessing those sort of sites like Instagram, etc., and using those as their platforms.
MySpace back then.
Yeah, MySpace back then, yeah. But using those spaces where, you can lie and people can't know the truth because you're not in front of everyone, you're behind a screen, and how people were using that. And so there's this term was coined, and he spoke about Belle in this sense of potentially a diagnosis for her of Munchausen by internet. And he's quoted as saying, "My sense is that she was particularly predatory in her behaviours, engaging more people and enlarging the deceptions over time. She's more sociopathic than most Munchausen by internet patients that I have seen."
She is a sociopath.
Yeah.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, like, she's a narcissist too.
Well, there's different levels of like those sorts of things. There's a couple of, so usually people with Munchausen also have other personality disorders, and they could be things like narcissism, sociopath, those sorts of terms come out. So there's, and what's the other one? Personality disorder, like antisocial personality disorders, things like that. So they generally have these underlying things as well going on for them. And then because Munchausen is something, as we've talked about, it's not always there. It's something that how do we explain that? It's it just appears in moments. It's not always there. Whereas a personality disorder
is always
you always
there.
have.
Yeah.
But he really felt that from what he had seen of how far she was able to take this, there's a lot more going on for her in terms of a sociopathic kind of state.
There's no evidence that she has sought any psychological counselling or treatment or anything throughout all this.
No.
Should we talk about like the trial and how that all came about?
Yeah, we can. So she, in 2016, Consumer Affairs started taking legal action on her in regards to the the fraud and with the charities. So there were false claims by her that she was that she had the diagnosis, which is also part of that court hearing.
Yeah,
because that's basically what she was claiming, that she was having this diagnosis, and that was false. And the fact that she was also, so it was both parts playing in this, of like the diagnosis being false, but also the charity stuff being false. Then obviously, in 2017, the Federal Court of Australia supported the claims of Consumer Affairs around her fraud with the charities. They couldn't find that all claims around her misdiagnoses and all these sorts of things and false claims around her diagnosis, they couldn't put together that all of those could be proven as being false, but majority of it was able to be proven that it was false. So they still upheld all the claims from Consumer Affairs, as well as some extra. I can't call it convictions, can we? She wasn't really convicted.
No,
because in the end she was fined. On September 2017, officially, she was fined $410,000. $90,000 of that was for failing to donate proceeds from the sale of the whole Pantry app, as she publicly advertised. $50,000 of that was for failing to donate proceeds from the launch of the whole Pantry app. $30,000 was for failing to donate proceeds from a 2014 Mother's Day event that she held,
which was literally a fundraiser.
Yeah, yep.
That she kept the money from.
She just kept the money from it. She was also fined a further $90,000 for failing to donate to another company profits from her app and book, etc. And also, as part of that 2017 judgment, she was fined $150,000 directly for the failure to donate money to the Schwartz family, who we talked about with the brain tumour.
Joshua.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, all in all, she was fined $410,000, but that was in 2017. By the time we get further on, that's now, because she hasn't paid it, it's now accruing interest. So she's up over the $500,000 mark now of what she owes.
I thought it was like somewhere around the $700,000.
Yeah, it's climbing and climbing because she hasn't. Well, there was a raid on her house in 2020 to try and seize assets to reclaim some of the money that she was fined for, because she had not paid a cent. That I don't know that they seized a hell of a lot. They weren't able to get much from that, but it hasn't been disclosed how much it was or anything like that. In 2021, it was in February. The case was labelled as abandoned, which that seems ridiculous. They just we're not just going to claim. They're going to look for that anymore. There was a second search on the house in May of that year, again, where they may have seized some more assets, but we don't know what was seized. But she's still, as far as we're aware, the fine is still outstanding, and she's never had to pay a cent of it. So she's really got away with it. I mean, she's known to have taken international trips in that time,
which she claims Clive funded. They weren't funded by her.
Yeah,
but Clive's
if he was her
partner, her de facto.
But that's where she claims they're just friends.
Yeah, well, fuck off.
Whatever.
No, you're not.
It's bullshit.
And
you're at least a de facto relationship with the way they were living.
For sure. So what's his is hers, and why aren't they paying this fine? Like, it's disgusting.
Absolutely.
She also later on, I know you know what I'm about to say just by your face, the Ethiopian community.
Yep.
So she went to ground for a long time after all this came out. No one saw her. She didn't post. She didn't do anything.
She lives in Northcote in Melbourne still.
But then her little head popped up in the Ethiopian community of all places.
Yeah.
Where she's actually doing fundraising and looking into charitable events.
Well, she's not, though. She claimed that on in a media interview. Yeah. She claimed all that, and she was wearing a headscarf and claiming she was part of their community.
She even had like an accent in that interview. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck?
Using language, and she was sort of telegraphically speaking within some Ethiopian language. Well, the president of the Australian Oromo Community Association in Victoria, and I'm not going to say his name because I'll butcher it, and I feel like that's really disrespectful. He stated that Gibson was not a registered volunteer within the community. She is not in the community, and she is not working with the community. He had seen her all of 2 to 3 times within those community things. And he said that nobody knew who she was, and he wished that she would stop claiming that she's part of the community. He came out publicly and said that.
That's big call.
Yeah. He had no idea who she was.
And what was she hoping to gain from this? She needs some serious psychological help.
This is it. I 100% believe that, I think that, you can only do a diagnosis from a distance because she's not going to sit down with anyone, but she needs to. I think that she seriously needs help. I do worry about, I think from what I can gather, Clive has custody of Oliver.
I think so.
So I don't know what kind of relationship she has with Oliver, but I'm sure she's definitely part of his life, whatever. But I worry then for him. With just not because she's being a bad mother in mistreating him on the day-to-day or anything, but that's psychologically damaging over time if your mother's completely lying about everything. That's
for sure. And there's so
impact.
much out there. Even just the release of apple cider vinegar means that everyone's talking about this now, and he would know obviously that's his mum that everyone's talking about. So for a boy born in 2010, he's 15 years old now.
Yeah,
he would 100% know all of this or be hearing all of this.
That's right. But I do have a real issue with apple cider vinegar, the show, because it is claiming that it's based on facts, and it's really not. It is a false story.
Oh no, they do say that it's not completely factual. They do.
They do, but it does. It's, to me, we're getting into baby reindeer territory with it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's it can be, a lot of people just assume, that's the story of Belle Gibson.
I think that's the issue, right? Is that people watch it and go, that's true to real life events. No, it's not. It's a dramatization. It's based on true events, and there are certainly things like in apple cider vinegar, the Tara Brown depiction of the interview,
it's literally word for word.
Verbatim.
Yeah,
it is word for word, 100% what happened. But then, as you were saying, some characters have been an amalgamation of 3 or 4 different people.
Yeah.
Situations have been changed for entertainment purposes, and this is the thing. We need to look at these things critically and be okay, this is for entertainment. This is not a documentary.
No. I would say if anyone who's listening to this is I want to know more about this, I wouldn't be directing them to that.
For entertainment. I thought it was very well made.
I didn't like it.
Oh, I liked it.
No, I didn't.
I
actually didn't like the girl who played Belle.
Oh, I thought she's American.
I know.
Best Australian accent of an American I've ever heard.
Her voice pissed me off through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it because it was a bit whiny?
It wasn't the whiny, it was the quietness and that.
But Belle talks like that.
No, she doesn't. She's got a higher pitch than that, and it really pissed me off.
But Belle's whiny.
Oh, whiny, definitely, but I didn't find her whiny. I found her irritating.
Okay.
Shit. I don't know. I didn't like
really
it.
good.
And I felt like it jumped around at points where it was really got hard to follow in terms of what timeline we're on.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't a massive fan in many ways for it. I did not really like the pitting two females against each other when that was not factual at all. I really despised that.
I didn't like that either. Because it's actually served no purpose to the storyline.
It did not need that at all.
I agree. That was a really interesting and weird decision by Netflix to do that.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was a really wrong choice. Yeah. So, I wouldn't direct people to it personally.
Where I would direct people, though, is Bo Donnelly and Nick Toscano, who are the age journalists. Yep. They wrote a book called The Woman Who Fooled the World. So apple cider vinegar was loosely based on this. I think their book informed the basis of the show, but everything they write in that book is factual.
Yes.
And a lot of the information that I got for this, for the research was through them. So, definitely give that a read.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Really interesting.
Very
and goes into
interesting.
so much more detail than we've been able to go into today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, she's a very interesting person. I just feel like we haven't seen the last of her too. I feel like she'll pop up again. Not that I think she'll get her hooks in like she had previously.
No, because everyone's going to be questioning anything she does from now on, so they bloody well should.
Yeah, but I do think that unfortunately she's got one of those personalities that she'll think that she's knows better than everyone else and that she'll be able to fool us again.
Yeah.
But
no.
No. Well, yeah. But I'll stand by it. If she had just freaking done this without the lies.
I know.
Use your skills and be who you are.
Use them for good and not evil.
Oh, please.
Come on.
You could be a good person on your own.
I know what I was going to say now about
Yeah.
Bryce Corbett thing.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just before we had to pause for a second because I forgot.
Your brain
what
fell
I was,
out.
I just completely lost my train of thought. What Bryce Corbett was saying in one of his interviews was that when he interviewed Belle for the Australian Women's Weekly first, he was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this woman exists. You know, she's admitted to lying. We can see all of the deceit and everything that she's peddled along the way. Then when he did the interview with her mum, he was like, it made me think a little bit differently. So obviously there's some issues there as well, and there were then issues with her upbringing potentially, but no one's actually telling the truth in this situation.
No.
So we don't actually know anything for sure.
No.
And that makes it really hard to form an opinion on anything because we don't know.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think obviously someone who grows up like it turns out to be a Belle.
Yeah.
They've started somewhere. And
That's
I mean, you know, obviously her childhood is definitely, there's something there definitely that has caused this to sort of be her adulthood.
Yeah.
Totally agree. But when it's, the waters are so muddied with her lies, it's really hard to show any empathy for that because you don't know what's happened.
We don't know.
No.
We don't know.
And I don't think she knows. I honestly think she's convinced herself of her own lies.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's hard. She needs help. Seek serious mental help.
Please. Stat.
Yeah.
All right. I think that kind of brings us to the end. As we said, there's so much out there. If you want to know more information, Google.
Yep.
And there's so many things out there. So next week, what are we covering?
Oh, Carla Homolka.
Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is a Canadian case. So this was a case that really intrigued me, and I feel like this may have been one of the first true crime podcasts I ever listened to was about these guys.
Oh, wow.
Years and years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
But you don't know anything about the case. No. So I'm so interested for you to get your teeth stuck into it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this. This will be my absolute week of deep dive. I'm intrigued. Yes. See what I find out.
That's it. Cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for another episode of Two Crime Besties. As always, please don't forget to follow us on all the socials, especially TikTok, because we're getting a massive following over there, which we love. If you would like to buy us a coffee or a wine, please do so at buymeacoffee.com/Two Crime Besties.
And send us any suggestions you've got if you want us to do a Patreon. What might be your thing that you think we could offer in that sort of space? Send us ideas.
Please. Thank you.
Stay curious, crime besties.
Bye.